Welcome to the Army Empire Podcast, your go-to podcast for insightful tips on investment strategies, entrepreneurship, and all things money matters. Join Bernard Alerte, your guide on this journey to financial freedom. Each episode will dive into expert advice, practical strategies, and inspiring stories to help you take control of your financial future. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned investor, we've got something for everyone. So get ready to unlock your financial potential and make your money work for you. And now, let's welcome your host, Bernard Alerte.
We are back.
Good evening. Excited to be here.
How exciting. We are back. Yes. And I have just seen a little bit of the slides that we're going to be showing today. But before we even get into the subject, I just want to say welcome. Welcome to those who are watching us on YouTube. Where else, Bernard?
Yes.
Facebook and
Instagram.
So I have Instagram over here rolling, and I see some people are jumping on. And here on YouTube, please tell us where you're watching from. Tell us where you're watching from. If you're here in the state of Florida, if you're watching from somewhere else, we love to hear from you. We love your questions. We love all of the interaction that we get with you guys during this time. So welcome again to the Army Empire Podcast. Bernard.
Absolutely.
Last week.
Yes.
Last week, it was for real. We were talking about IULs.
Yes.
And I believe from my notes, for those who take notes, Index Universal Life Insurance.
Yes.
Am I right? And you were just knocking it out of the park, teaching us the cons of this life insurance. And now today we're going to hit part two.
Yeah, part two, because we went over so much information and it's only a short period of time. So as I was going over it, people asked me, well, how about this? How about that? Can you talk more about this, what you mentioned before? So we figured, let's do a part two to spend a little bit more time on those different challenges when it comes to these plans, because we want people to be aware while they have education. So it's so important. And it's such a unfortunate, popular product out there. People asking about how's that work. But people don't quite understand how it works, which is challenging because there's so much, podcasts, YouTube and TikTokers out there, and people take since it's because something is popular doesn't mean always it's good. Just because something popular doesn't always mean it's good.
That's okay? A Facebook post.
Absolutely. And that people need to be aware of that and understand how that works, right? So one of the questions that we asked that triggers, does the math make sense? Okay. And one thing we want to educate families on is always make sure when you look at your money, the only lens you need to see your money through is something called math. That's the only lens you need to see your money through. You can't see any other lens. You can't look at like theory. You can't look at fantasy. You can't look at, oh my gosh, that this is, it's fancy. You can't look at that. You have to look at math. Does the math make sense? Whenever the math doesn't make sense, it's not a good thing for you, right? The math has to make sense for you. So that's so important. So one of the things that, if you look at the next slide, one of the things that's so important, that's a big selling point, which you hear so much talk about, is infinite banking, right? You can be your own bank. Okay. That's how to sell those plans. As in, you can, but the challenge is you can't be your own bank. Okay. And I like to bring to a more, basic level. How does a bank work, right? Let's look at how a bank works, right, Liz? If you think about it, how does a bank raise money? Okay, a bank raises money, number one, by getting money from the Federal Reserve, right? That gives them money to open up a bank, right? And what the banks also do, if you go back to the so if you look also in the banks also, the second always bank raise by getting deposits from customers. Customers deposit money in the bank, and the bank invests the customer's money, right, to make more money, or lend it out to make more money. So if you think about this, you can be your own bank. The money you put in your plan, you can borrow your own money, be your own bank, and you can do unlimited. But that's not true. That's not really true, because the banks don't borrow their own money. Yeah, banks don't borrow their own money. Right? Banks lend money out, right? So if you look at, you can be your own bank. Let me ask you a question. I always ask the question. Who determines, right, Banks determine, number one, how much interest rate they charge, right or wrong, right?
Right.
That's one.
Right.
And banks determine how you pay the money back, right? The repayment,
Yes.
right? So if you look in the policy, who determines how much interest rate that you're charging when you take your money out?
The bank.
It's the insurance company.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Insurance company, IUL. It's not you, it's the insurance company, IUL, right? And who determines how you have to repay a loan back? Is the insurance company.
Yeah.
So the insurance company is actually the bank. You're not the bank. So you can't be your own bank, right? And that's the biggest misconception. You can be your own bank. You don't have to borrow your own money. Whenever you have to borrow something, it means it's not yours. I never had to borrow something that's not mine, right? That's actually mine, right or wrong. So if this is your own money, if you have to borrow your own money, then it's not really your money, right? And one of the challenges, one of the big misconception people think when on a life insurance, especially any cash or even IUL, they think that when you're borrowing money, you're borrowing from the face amount. Whenever you take money out the policy, people have this misconception that you're actually taking the money from the face amount of policy. Let's say the person got for 200,000. They actually believe that they're borrowing from the 200,000. You never borrow from the 200,000. You never borrow from the face amount. There is not a policy in existence that allows you to borrow from a face amount. What you're actually borrowing from is your own money that you are funding in the policy.
Right.
Your own money that you're putting in the policy, right? That's the only money you have access to. You can't take any more than you have.
This is such a mindset. This is changing our mindset and being able to understand exactly what you just said. Because we don't say it that way.
Exactly. So that's another thing people are not aware of. They have this misconception that you're borrowing the insurance company's money, that you have access. You never have access to insurance company money. The only time you took money out of policy is your own money that you fund there. You take the money out. That's pretty much it. So that's definitely out of the question. So you cannot be your own bank. And there's no reason for you to be your own bank, okay? You can have your own savings event. We're going to talk more about that in a couple of slides, right? That you can have your money anytime you want, right? The second challenge, right? If you look at the next slide with index, they have very high surrender charges. Very high surrender charge. So the cash value part that you're funding in the policy, right? They're very high surrender charge, sometimes up to 15 years that they charge you. You have to keep a policy. The first 2, 3, 4 years that you put money in those policies, all that money is going towards fees.
Very
if you
true.
from the get-go, it's going towards fees. So actually the insurance company takes all that money. Okay. So, and also on top of that is if you, let's say if you decide to, I'm gonna put a big chunk of money up front on it, they take a big chunk of money to have access. So let's say I've seen situations like I talked about last week that people actually put 50,000 in the policy. And actually when they look at how much they actually had access to surrender value, it might be like 25,000, or it might be like they took maybe 50% of the money and surrender charges.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Exactly. How is that ever okay? So you're guaranteed to lose money. It's like you're guaranteed, as soon as you put on, you're guaranteed to lose money. And it takes years, and sometimes decades to see a positive return. Okay. So that's a major challenge. Now there's annuities that have some surrender charges, but they're not as high as that one, as the IULs, right? They're very exorbitant surrender charges, right? That's a major challenge. So your money's locked up. It's just not good. Okay. Yes. If you look at the next challenge with those plans, see, if you take withdrawing your money reduces your face amount. A lot of people, not only this is your own money, Liz, that you're funding, right? That you're putting in the policy, but on top of that, when you take money, your own money out of the policy, they deduct it from your face amount. So if you're covered for, let's say 100,000, 200, 300,000, if you take 10, 15, 20,000 out of that policy, they actually reduce your face amount by 20,000.
That's crazy.
Reduce your face about your own money now. You're taking your own money out and they reduce your face amount by 20,000. Okay. So you reduce your face amount, and what happens is, let's say if you don't pay it back, it gets interest. The interest accrues, and it's actually the interest on a cash value policies it's like a credit card interest. It just compounds to the point it reduces more and more and more if you don't pay it back. Okay, so it reduces your face amount. So if the goal is you bought the policy for protection, right? For part of its protection, guess what happens? You're eating away at the protection.
Yeah.
Right. So it defeats the whole purpose, right? Which is a major challenge, right? And if you look at the next slide, right? The next slide, the cost of insurance goes up every single year on a universal life policy or index universal life. Why is that? Because when you're paying a policy, when you're paying a premium to the insurance company, right? Every single month. So let's say you're paying $300. I think I talked about it last year. You're paying $300 every single month to the insurance company, right? So let's say part of the premium paying to the insurance company is going for the cost of insurance, which is the face amount of the policy, and the other portion might go towards the cash value part of the policy. But see, the cost in IULs, the cost of insurance goes up every single year. So let's say that specific plan, let's say $100 is going for the cost of insurance. What happens is, let's say you're paying $300 a month, the cost of insurance goes up every year. So if you're paying $200 a month for the policy, right? So $100 for the cost of insurance, $100 for the cash value. So what happens, since the cost of insurance goes up, so it might be 120, 80, 150, 50, 200, 0. Then it goes above 200. What they're doing, you're still paying 200, but what they start doing, they start taking money from the cash value part of the policy to pay for the extra cost of insurance.
Oh, stop.
Yes, and eventually what happens is that money drains. That money goes down. So eventually what happens, there's a situation that it might be later on down the line, might be 10 years, 15 or 20 years down the line, you had your policy and they send you a bill. They say, listen, your cost of insurance is $500, $600, $700 a month. You're like, what do you mean? Either you pay the premium or the policy gets canceled.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, so those policies tend to, we call implode later on the line. Implode later because the cost of insurance just goes up, and there's not enough. The cash value part of it is not enough to sustain the cost of insurance, right?
Totally the right word. Implode.
Absolutely.
It isn't. Yes.
Exactly. If you look at the next slide on top of that, right? It's very, and I'm going to crack the code here, and I'll be very direct. It's very, very why people say, well, Bernard, why are they selling these plans? Why are these plans out there? How come there's no challenge? Because they're very profitable for the insurance companies. Any agents that sell them. Very, very profitable for the insurance. It's very profitable. If you look at it, it benefits, the math works 100% for the insurance companies. They love it.
We have somebody on Instagram saying that that's madness. It is.
It is, right? Exactly. It's very profitable. And again, it's also profitable for the agents that are selling them, those policies. And a lot of times, let me share something with you. And I'll tell you a little bit about compensation, because that's something that's not talked about. No one ever talked about how much people get paid for these policies. A lot of times in the insurance industry, right, insurance business, you get paid on the premiums collected on a yearly basis. So what happened? The agents get paid a percentage or how much is collected for the year. So let's say the premiums is $3,000 for the year. The agents get paid a percentage. They can get paid from 50% to 100% upfront. So they're getting that money most of the time upfront. They might get 50. Let's say if you're paying $3,000 for the policy for the year, the agent might get paid $1,500 to $3,000 upfront for the policy. So guess what they do? It's like, oh my gosh. So they love selling those plans. Versus if they took the same $250 a month, that $3,000 a year that a client is paying, and decide, let me give you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, let me give you pure insurance because you want to protect. Let me give you pure term insurance that's only gonna cost you $100 a month or $80 a month, right? And we're gonna invest the difference in a mutual fund, a different investment, right? Where the compensation is totally different, because when you put money in an investment for someone, right, you don't get paid 50% of the money up front. You get paid more long term.
Yeah. So
you might get paid a small percentage every month, but it's a long term, right? So what happens is there's we're in a microwave society. where people, they don't want to do something long term. They want to get their money now. They want to sell their power. They want to get all their money now. I want to get as much as possible. So why? Because of that, they say, let me sell IULs, because I can get, instead of waiting, doing the right thing for the consumer and paying a little bit less now, more long term. Let me get as much as I can get right now.
That's wild.
Right now.
That's
right?
wild. J Solutions is saying they are straight up vultures on Instagram. They're straight up vultures. Listen, this is not the podcast for you if you don't care where your money goes. If you don't mind flushing your money down the toilet, this is not the podcast for you.
Well, you can turn off right now.
This podcast is for men and women who really want an understanding of legacy, of where my money's going. For women that are going to say, okay, babe, we need to take a look at our life insurance. We need to sit with a financial advisor. We need to really figure this stuff out, because Bernard is sharing so much knowledge with us when it comes to these things. The layman person, we don't know these things.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And here's the challenge with that also. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The challenge that's happening, and that's happening across the industry, right, is, for example, the compensation. If you look at any investment, right, because the reason people get IUL, because they want some kind of investment. They want to have their money grow. But what happens is, in the industry out there, most advisors, okay, unless someone has 100,000, a lot of them, right, unless someone has 100,000, 200,000 liquid to invest, they're not really going to talk to someone. They don't want to, in their minds, they're like, I don't want to sit down with someone, help them put away $100, $200 a month. There's very few companies out there that are willing to do that. But so they rather say, listen, unless you have 100,000, 200,000, not really going to talk to you. So that's the challenge. So because of that, see, middle market has very little access to people that'll do the right thing. So why? So the IUL agents out there, they're like, okay, that's open door policy for us. You want an investment, you want insurance, they give you both, right? And a lot of people, they get involved knowing, okay, maybe that's the best option, because they make it sound good, right?
Wow.
And also, they have no fiduciary responsibility. When most of the reps that sell those policies are only life insurance license, right? So because they are life insurance license, what they actually do, they actually how can I say that? They can just tell you this works this way, even if it doesn't work that way. There's no liability. They really can't do much because they don't have a fiduciary responsibility to do the right thing for it. They're supposed to. It's implied, but it's a different guideline. Versus when you have your investment license, this is implied. You can get in trouble for that. You can't lie to people. You can't mislead people. You have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that you do something that's in the best interest of the client. Now, all of them don't do it, right? But there's a different standard when someone has an investment, or we call it securities or investment license, right? Versus if you just have an insurance license, hey, it works that way. And I've seen like people talk on like disaster. Oh, you put this amount, you're gonna have this much, you can take and never run. And it's not true. It is not true. Okay.
So having somebody who has their life insurance license and their investor's license is the person that you want to go to.
Absolutely. If you want an investment, if your goal, your interest is, if you just want life insurance, some life insurance plan that someone can help your life insurance. But if you want something, you want like a life insurance and you want an investment plan, you want your money to work, you want your money to grow, an investment plan, you need to speak to someone that's an investment license.
Your cousin over here on Instagram, D Alerte, saying, cousin, we need to talk.
Yes.
We need to talk.
Absolutely.
I love this. My husband says we can't trust the companies to police themselves when the bottom line is making money for them. They are very pro-profit, a lot of companies.
Absolutely. And a lot of agents, and here's what I always share with people. I said, listen, there's three people involved in transaction. There's the company, there's the agents, and there's the client, right? Now, let's say a company, they have a plan. Let's say that it costs the client $1,000 for the year, and they only give away $100,000 of benefit. And there's another plan where they're collecting $500 from the client and giving away $200,000 of benefit. Now, which one makes the company more money? The one where they get the higher premium, $1,000, and they're giving away less benefit. Now, which plan are they going to encourage their agents to sell?
Yeah.
That plan, right?
Yeah.
And the agents gets paid a commission, a percentage, like I shared with you, on how much they're collecting every single year from the policy. So you think agents, let's say agent has a 50% contract. You think they make more money 50% of 500 or 50% of 1,000?
Yeah.
50% of 1,000. So they're gonna encourage their clients to get that kind of policy. They'll find a way to make it look good, and that's the challenge. Makes it, it's very challenging because of that. So this is why it's so important for people to understand why it's out there, because it's very profitable. It's very profitable. It's really it's like a pure cash cow for the insurance companies and the agents, because they can sell a policy, then a year, 2 years later, and they can sell someone else, and they go from one company to another company. That's why they do a lot of times, and they keep recycling that over and over again.
Listen, when we have conversations at like Thanksgiving dinner, it's gonna be one of those things, like it's gonna be a ding 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 the minute somebody says anything about index universal life insurance.
Yes, exactly.
Wild.
Now, people say, well, Bernard, what options do we have out there? But let's talk about options. What options can someone have out there? If you want to save and invest money, you want to have something, what options? Very, very simple. If you look at the next slide, better options out there. You can set up a Roth IRA. Okay, Roth IRA. So listen, average person, if you're under 50, you can put $7,000 a year in a Roth IRA, right? If you're over 50, they allow you to put a little bit more, $8,000 a year for a Roth IRA. So if your budget is if you're not putting more than $500, $600, $700 a month, right? That's your budget. Get pure life insurance, right? Term insurance, and invest the difference in Roth IRA. There's a big. Here's what they tell. They say, well, if you take money out of Roth IRA, you're gonna get taxed. That's incorrect. Any money you put in, any money you contribute on a Roth IRA, you don't get taxed on it. You can take that money out, you don't get taxed on it. The only time you get taxed if you're under 59.5 is the interest you earned. Because number one, the interest you earn on a Roth IRA, if your investment is tax deferred, you don't pay taxes on the interest you earn on a Roth IRA, right? Now, if you put $8,000 in your Roth IRA, right? Yeah. And let's say your account grows to 15,000. You can take the 8,000 with no penalties, no taxes, nothing. You can take it out. If you're an emergency, if you want to buy a house, you can fund a bit. You can take it out with no taxes.
Have we spoken about this in an episode? Or
yes, we talked about Roth IRAs, I think past episodes back.
And the taxes, because that interest, it's on the interest that you
pay taxes on.
That's what you pay the taxes on.
Exactly. So if you look at it, index universal versus the Roth IRA, the Roth IRA is tax deferred, because the way they sell index, you don't pay taxes on your money. You don't pay taxes on your money Roth IRA either. And guess what happens? The Roth IRA doesn't have big surrender fees. They don't have big surrender charges, right? So for most people, if you invest money and if you put money in Roth IRA, now some companies, there might be a small, we call a sales charge. It might cost anywhere from 4 or 5%, anything like that. But it's not like 25, 40, 50%, right? That you would have in like an index universal life. So you're able, number one, and you can't take money out of index universal life. You can't take the cash value part of it. You can't take any profits out of that. Any profits you take out of that is going to be taxed. It's going to be taxed. When you see people say, well, I can take all that money tax free. Yes, because like I talked last week, you didn't make any money. If you invest 75,000 in an index universal life and you have 60,000, yes, you can take the 60,000 and pay no tax on it, because you lost, as far as the IRS is concerned, you lost 10, 15 grand. So they can't tax you on a loss. Yeah. You can't tax, but I guarantee you, if you put 75,000 IUL and your account grows to, let's say, 100,000, if you had it for 20, 30 years, I can guarantee you, try to take 25,000 with pay no taxes on it. I can guarantee you're going to get paid tax on interest you earn. You're going to pay capital gains on it. So Roth IRA is invest. So if someone's putting away less than 7,000, 8,000 a year, that's your budget, then you use a Roth IRA. to fund your investments, your investment. Now, fixed index annuity. You could put money. Say, let's say someone says, I heard people, well, the Roth IRA is only 7,000-8,000, right? But I want to put more money. I want to have more money and protect the money and pay no taxes. Yes, you could put money in a fixed index annuity where 100% of the money is invested. So if you have 25,000, 50,000 is invested directly in the fixed index annuity, not a life insurance, not IUL, fixed index annuity. Use the same index. They protect your money. There's a cap on the bottom also, right? And there's also you can have there's a cap on top also, but the cap on the bottom, 100% of your money is invested in it. So if you have 25,000, you have 25,000 in there. You just got to keep it for a period of time because they have little surrender charges, which might go, every company's different. It could be 7, 6, 5, but it's not like 25, 50%.
Yeah.
So they want you to keep your money for a period of time, right? But the good part about that is you're able to, how can I say that? Have your money grow. 100% of your money grow up front without any surrender fees, right? Take it out. There's something called if somebody wants to take advantage of the market, like the right advantage of the growth of the market. There's buffer variable annuities that you can actually have where you can actually, let's say the S&P 500 does good, you're going to get the S&P 500 returns. And it gives you a cap on the bottom also. If you keep for like 5 companies, different could be 1 year, 3 year, 6 year, but there's caps. So in other words, there's options. If you have lump sum, if you want to put big money, if you need money's tax deferred, be able to, yes, you can use those vehicles. And there's so many other conservative investments out there. People concerned about the market losing money. There's a lot of conservative investment where 100% of your money is invested, right? So if you want to invest money, IUL is not where you invest your money. It's not the best way to protect your income. It's not the best way to get life insurance, number one, because the cost is more expensive. And it's also not the best way to invest your money, okay? There's other vehicles out there, but the challenge is you have to sit down with someone that has a securities or investment license. Someone that's not securities or investment license cannot help you give those options. The only reason they talk about it because that's the only thing they have. Okay. And a lot of companies they discourage their agents to get an investment license because they have more, that means they have to oversee them and it's more responsibilities and they have to really be held liable for it. So they discourage, oh, you don't need your investment license. Just do, if they want investment, just give them IUL. It's not as close to it, but so that's why we want people to share with people exactly how IUL works in more detail so they know exactly what they need to do.
Yeah. Make sure the math is mathin'.
Absolutely.
So good. So good. Listen, if you missed part 1, go to our previous episode 25, and watch it so you could get a good idea of what it is that he's talking about. It kind of like sets the stage up for this part 2. This was so good. We got quite a few people on Instagram watching. Yeah, the level of greed is insane. I love this. I love everything that we're learning. Sometimes I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, how does he even remember all this stuff?
Yeah.
With all of the different variables of things.
Yes. I've done it so a long time. And one thing I always try to do, I want to understand something. I have a curiosity, which I want to learn. I'm very curious. I want to know, okay, how does that work? So when it first came out, I was like, man, how does that work? Let me see the math. Let me see how it works that way. And I look at it, let's look at this scenario. Let's look at that scenario. And sometimes it's not just one. I'll look like 10, 15 different scenarios. And when I look at 10 or 15, it's just almost 100% of the time, this is a better option.
Yeah.
This is a better option. And I've never seen a scenario where this is actually where IUL versus dollar for dollar. If you look at the apples to apples, like the same age of person, same amount of money, I've never seen a scenario where that made sense other than for the agent and the insurance company.
Yeah.
I've never seen it actually make more sense for for the consumer, because there's so many different options out there for consumer to save and invest their money and protect their income.
Listen, guys, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, listen, there's no such thing as stupid questions or dumb questions. If you have any question whatsoever, scrolling below in the tickler, you're going to see Bernard's email address. Listen, jot that down, put it on your notes in your phone somewhere so that you can send him any questions. Eileen must love it that he knows all these things. Yeah, I think she does, that he knows all of these things. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. But again, contact Bernard, ask questions, make an appointment, sit with him and his team, and know where your money's going so that you can make sure that the math is mathing.
Absolutely. That's a catchphrase.
That's the catchphrase. I'm stuck with it now. Yeah. All right, Bernard, this was great. Thank you guys so much for watching. For those who are watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and you guys on Instagram and all the comments, thank you so much. I see Christian George Films was saying hello. So there's quite a few people that were on. So thank you so much for watching. We are here every Tuesday. Tuesday. What time, Bernard?
8 p.m. Same bad time, same bad channel, right? That's for the older folks.
That's right. We'll see you again next week for another phenomenal episode. Do you have a little teaser? Do you know more or less?
We're still working on that. We're working on something next week. It was delayed. We're looking at something next week we talk about the youth, right? So our parents. We're still working on that. So we're probably gonna have that.
So something's coming together. Something is brewing. Something is simmering, and expect that really soon. We love you guys. Thank you so much for your support, and we hope that you are blessed. We will see you next week. Bye, Bernard.
You guys, take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Army Empire podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Join us next week for another exciting edition, and until then, keep building your empire.